Did something go terribly wrong during BTS's recent return flight? Why did Jimin cry uncontrollably after hearing about what happened to Taehyung in the sky? And what exactly did Jungkook do in those tense, critical moments at 36,000 feet above ground? The questions haunted armies worldwide as shocking reports began to surface. No1 was prepared for what would unfold on a seemingly routine flight carrying members of BTS back from the United States, where they had been working non-stop on their highly anticipated latest album. Tired, overworked, and intensely focused, the group had been pushing themselves past limits. But not even the most dedicated fans imagined that it would result in something as alarming as this. Taehyung collapsing into Jungkook's arms midair, blood trickling from his nose, and an emotional spiral that left Jimin in tears. Was it exhaustion? Was it something worse? Why was there no official statement? And why has Jungkook, normally calm and composed, been unusually quiet since the flight? Let's go back to the moment it happened. According to a source who was on board the same flight, the entire cabin was in a stunned hush when a crew member hurriedly fetched tissues and a medical kit. The source said, "There was a bit of turbulence, but nothing too crazy. Then suddenly you could hear whispers and someone calling for help. It was Jungkook's voice. At first it seemed like a small commotion, but then a chilling realization swept through the cabin. Taehyung was bleeding. A nosebleed, perhaps, but one that came out of nowhere and left his face pale and visibly weakened. And most disturbing of all, it happened while he was leaning against Jungkook, who caught him just before he slid off his seat. Jungkook acted fast. Witnesses say he didn't hesitate. He removed his jacket, placed it gently behind Taehyung's head, and kept whispering something, trying to keep him awake. Those close enough said Jungkook's hands trembled slightly as he cradled Taehyung, but his voice remained calm and steady. His hoodie was stained with blood, but he didn't seem to care. And that's when the emotional chain reaction began. As the plane made its way over the Pacific, news was sent to the other BTS members seated nearby. Jimin, who had been resting a few rows ahead, was woken up, gently at first, but then with increasing urgency. When he turned around and saw Taehyung being supported by Jungkook, his face pale, his head tilted back to stop the bleeding, something inside Jimin cracked. "He froze for a moment," said the same onboard source. Then he got up slowly and walked toward them, but as he got closer, his expression changed. You could see his eyes start to fill with tears. Jimin didn't say anything at first. He simply stood there, staring at Taehyung, perhaps trying to process what he was seeing. The Magne line had always been close, but Taehyung and Jimin had a bond that went beyond friendship. It was brotherhood, a soul-level connection. To see him in such a fragile, powerless state, it was too much. According to the source, Jimin whispered Taehyung's name softly. Then, almost as if all the pressure of the past few weeks came crashing down on him, he covered his face and began to cry. Not the quiet, restrained kind of crying, but the kind that comes from deep within, a heart cracked open by fear. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. Despite the shocking nature of the incident, no official statements were released for over 24 hours. Fans noticed that Jimin was unusually silent on social media. Jungkook canceled a scheduled live broadcast, and Taehyung, who usually shares even the smallest updates on Weverse, vanished from view. What were they hiding? Why the silence? Some fans began digging deeper, searching for flight logs, tracking data, and even crew statements. One theory that quickly gained traction was that Taehyung had not been getting enough rest in the weeks leading up to the flight. And multiple unconfirmed reports began to surface from people claiming to have seen him at the studio until past 3 a.m. on multiple occasions. Was this a case of sheer exhaustion? It's possible, and it would make sense. After all, BTS had been pouring their hearts into this album. Industry insiders had already hinted that this comeback could be their most emotional yet, with songs written by the members themselves, songs inspired by real pain, real struggles, and real love. And with military enlistments and temporary separations looming, the pressure was immense. For the first time in years, they were all together in one place again. Everyone wanted this album to be perfect, but perfection comes at a cost. And sometimes that cost is health. Jimin later opened up about the incident during a private conversation with staff, which was later leaked anonymously to Korean media. According to the leak, Jimin said, "I saw him in Jungkook's arms and I couldn't breathe. I thought, what if we pushed too hard? What if he didn't finish the sentence." That incomplete thought says more than words ever could. The moment was raw, unscripted, and deeply human. A moment that reminded everyone, armies, the media, even the group themselves, that behind the dazzling lights, the sold-out tours, and the meticulously curated Instagram posts, they are human, vulnerable, breakable, and sometimes broken. But what happened next is what sets BTS apart. Jungkook, still shaken but resolute, stayed by Taehyung's side for the entire flight. He refused to sleep. He didn't even eat. He kept adjusting Taehyung's posture, applying light pressure to his forehead, and making sure the bleeding had stopped completely. When flight attendants offered help, he accepted only what was necessary, choosing to handle most of it himself. One crew member shared. He looked scared. But more than that, he looked determined, like nothing else mattered in the world except making sure Taehyung was okay. And Jimin? After calming down, he sat down beside them. For the remaining hours of the flight, he remained quiet. Occasionally, he would reach out to touch Taehyung's arm, just to reassure himself that his friend was still there, still warm, still breathing. When the plane landed, an airport medical team was discreetly brought in, and Taehyung was taken for a private checkup. Jungkook never let go of his hand. Neither did Jimin. But what fans didn't know, until days later, was that Taehyung had been hiding symptoms for a while. According to a source close to the group, Taehyung had been complaining of lightheadedness and headaches during late-night recording sessions. But he brushed it off, saying, "I just need to finish this one track." One track turned into 2, then 3. Sleep became a luxury. Meals became optional. His focus was entirely on the music. And when Jungkook warned him to slow down, Taehyung simply smiled and said, "I'll rest when we're done." That rest never came. Not until his body forced him to. And now BTS is at a crossroads. Do they continue pushing through for the sake of their legacy? Or do they pause, reflect, and heal? In the hours following the incident, armies flooded social media with hashtags like #GetWellSoonTaehyung, #WeLoveYouJimin, and #ThankYou Jungkook. The global fandom came together once again, not just as fans of a band but as a family. And in the center of it all, one truth echoed louder than the rest. They're not just idols. They're human. And they need space to breathe, to feel, and to recover. The article continues into further analysis, statements from staff, unseen behind-the-scenes moments, theories about the upcoming album's emotional weight, and more surprise revelations surrounding that emotional flight, and what it may mean for BTS's future. Jimin broke down in tears after seeing Taehyung's health crisis mid-flight. What really happened on that plane? While the plane touched down quietly on the tarmac of Incheon International Airport, the wait inside BTS's cabin was anything but silent. The passengers might have been sleeping, but 3 of the 7 members of BTS were living through one of the most frightening moments of their journey so far. Taehyung, still weak, leaned on Jungkook as he tried to walk, while Jimin followed closely, never letting his eyes stray too far. Airport staff were briefed in advance. No press, no flash photography. The group's arrival was cloaked in a rare veil of silence, and those who expected a usual glimpse of BTS walking through the gates were left confused when only 4 members appeared to greet fans. RM, Jin, Suga, and J-Hope, each of them holding a composed but slightly tense expression, walked out into the crowd. Where were the others? What had happened on that plane? And why did J-Hope, normally the sunshine of the group, seem like he had just cried? According to a translator who happened to be near the staff-only exit, Jungkook carried Taehyung on his back to the black van waiting just outside the private gate. The detail that stunned fans even more? Taehyung reportedly whispered, "Sorry," as Jungkook lowered him into the sea. It was a small word, but it echoed volumes. It wasn't just a medical scare. It was something deeper. Guilt. Pressure. The unbearable burden of knowing that their bodies are no longer just their own, but a symbol of millions of dreams, of millions of expectations.